up in the air.
Nice. Shouldn't have reacted before I actually beat the level. The last 3 jumps are easy, so. Alright, yeah, that was my first drop attempt after I had to take a break and I repracticed it and I got very consistent at that ending and then I beat it. Nice. 1402. I mean, I still split over 3 sessions, to be fair. I learned it once and I was intending to play it the next day, but that was the day where I started hitting it in the sand, and playing a level alongside friends was what I put in front of finishing this level, which I knew I could do whenever, even though I wish I was playing this level instead, because this level's really good, and I like this level a lot. I thought it was extremely fun. I'd have some minor gripes. I think that, like, the first green orb click of the level, that gap is pretty inconsistent, mainly because the spike there's a static layout invisible spike that is there that is in the spot where the block moves into, but the block does not move in by the time you get to that gap, and it makes it feel a bit harder than it really would have been. But I mean, that felt a little unfair, but it got consistent enough. The ball click at like 21%, the blue orb, is really difficult. I thought that was a very hard timing. It took me a long time to get consistent at that. Really, it didn't even get consistent until I started playing on LDM, and at that point the glow overlay that covered the level was gone, so it was a bit easier to see the time. Turning on LDM definitely helped. I didn't do it from the start though, because I think the level's really cool visually. Love the theme, love the energy in the deco. It's very high energy. I think it's great. Really like the way this level looks. But I did end up playing on LDM. One, because it was taking my frame rate down to like 150 from 240. So that is a genuine justification for using LDM, but it did make the level easy to see, that's for sure. And then the other gripes I have come from well, I think that the mid-80s can be really inconsistent. The one wave where there's the dual portal, well, sometimes you can end up missing the dual portal, but that doesn't necessarily kill you. But the transition out of that dual part is really finicky, and I found myself sometimes going up too late and then dying to a different structure entirely. And I do think that the dual part of that wave is structured really awkwardly. And then the UFO afterwards, I think that there is invisible anti-skips on pretty much everything you could feasibly skip, and I think that's mostly not a thing that you'll notice, except for the yellow orb at the start of that UFO, where it's very easy to just click too late and you're getting the exact same height you would from the yellow orb, but because there's an anti-skip in place, you get punished, and that didn't feel fair, really at all. I died there once from 0. I really didn't like that. There was also one time I just kind of instead of going up when I entered the UFO portal, I just went down. I don't even know how that happened. That only happened once, and it was from 0, which sucked, but in general, I wasn't really mad about dying in the later parts of the level, other than when it was just not my fault, like the anti-skip that I feel was unfair for that click. Like, again, like the red orb afterwards, fair enough to have a anti-skip there, but the yellow orb, considering you get you're not skipping anything, you're ending up in the exact same place with the exact same amount of clicks. I felt like that was kind of BS. But even then, I think the last quarter of the level is the hardest part, probably. The waves are much tighter in that part than they are in like the first half of the drop. And really, aside from the 2 choke points I mentioned earlier in the monologue, the pre-drop is mostly like pretty consistent and well balanced. So yeah, it definitely takes a lot of practice to get good at the ending, which is the hardest part. I was definitely a bit worried about the last ship, considering that can be a very awkward motion, and there's certain times where I just wouldn't have the right momentum after the pink orb. I used to have a setup where I would just hold the entire time. That I realized was pretty inconsistent, so I reworked that today. Found it to be much more consistent that way, but yeah, and again, I wasn't mad when I died at the end because I knew it was the hardest part, so that definitely helped my mindset as well. That's why I like backloaded stuff. It's not my fault if I die to the end. It makes sense. But Yeah, I do quite like this level though. I would 100% recommend this. I thought it was great, very fun gameplay, and yeah, GG's.